Greg Roten back here again for Street Scene Plus, and giving you just a glimpse into at least some of my car collection. Dusting them off again, getting them ready for the car shows, and this is my 1961 Volkswagen Beetle. This probably has the longest story behind it. Try to keep it short. I grew up in New Wilmington back in the 70s and used to ride my bike around town, and there was a Volkswagen that was sitting in the parking lot owned by Charlie Mansell. He was a lawyer, and if you know who he is in the New Wilmington area. And this car sat in the parking lot by his house. Loved the car, fell in love with the car. You know, it was kind of just, it was faded red. It was just a driver back then. So, you know, I used to run around it and just drive my bike around and look at it. And finally, after so long of that, he came out and talked to me and talked about the car. And soon after that, it disappeared. So he must have sold it or something. So I hadn't seen the car after that. Later on, I was looking for my Herbie. I wanted to do a Herbie. So I found an ad in the paper for a 61 Beetle. This is back in 1998, and I went to look at it, and it was in primer, and I'm like, man, this car looks familiar. Same car. It was this car. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, back then, this car was pretty, the floors were gone in it, and I didn't have the welding skills really to fix it, so I passed on it. But I had a friend named Dan Miller. He owns Red Barn Restorations up in Girard. He bought it. So, okay, you know, I kept in contact off and on in the years, and by chance, I was looking online and I inquired about another car, and it was Dan Miller. He had another car. And he goes, you remember that 61 Beetle? I said, yeah, of course I do. He goes, I still have it. I'm like, wow. He goes, do you want it? Like, this is an omen. This is fate. This car keeps coming back around. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, $400 later, I owned it. And when I got to looking at this car, it was so original. It had 33,000 miles on it. This car sat its whole life and just kind of wasted away. So I'm like, you know what, it's time. So I took the next 3 years after, you know, and got this car done in 2015. Had to put floors in it, but it's got the original 1200cc engine and runs great. It sat for all that time, but it still runs. So that proves that you can actually get an old engine running. It just cleaned it out, put new seals on it, and it runs perfect. So one thing that Charlie did for me when he was explaining about the car, he gave me the front license plate. This guy was in the Navy. He had this shipped over to Guam. So he gave me this license plate off the front of it when I was 8 years old. I kept it the whole time. And then all of a sudden, after that, you know, the car comes back to me. I can't believe it. That's, you know, this plate I kept all this time in memory of this car, and I ended up with a car anyway. Another story about the history of my cars. Every car has history, and I'm sure you guys have history on your cars. Send us an email, channel20@agoc.com, or post on our Facebook page. We'll answer your questions, me and Rick, and we will see you at the car shows. Come out to the shows. We've got a nice schedule this season, and we're probably in the middle of it by the time you see this, and come out and enjoy the weather while you can. So for next time on Street Scene Plus, I'm Greg Roten. We'll see ya.